and how do you start with interfacing analog sensors, right? And in particular, we went a little bit more details about what about the resolution of the ADC and what is the voltage reference that could be used to increase the um, sensitivity of the ADC and so on. So today we will go a little bit more into details of the ADC programming on a AVR based system, and there are multiple ways and there are multiple things to keep in mind while you interface this analog sensors, and we'll try to see some of the programming styles that needs to be followed in order to interface such devices, what are the uh, pros and cons of each such design and so on. And before that, we'll cover a little bit on the quantization error, because last time when we in the class we mentioned that the analog to digital conversion is basically the first step you do is this quantization and encoding, right? So after you do the sample and hold thing, once you once the pass on the signal to the successive approximation register, we were basically getting the quantized value of the signal, right? And we want to know what kind of error is associated with that. So here if you see, this is the analog signal which is shown in the red color, and of course with respect to time we are showing, and at every point in time whenever we have a sample, we are trying to convert that into the corresponding digital code. So if this is the value, analog domain value, this is converted to the digital code of 101. Here this is converted to 100 and so on. So if we look a little bit using like a magnifying glass, right, what you will see is there is a lot of error that is associated uh, because of this approximation. So quantization error is the difference between the analog signal and the closest available digital value, the code value, whatever the ADC is outputting at each sampling instant from the ADC. So we are doing it also discretely in terms of time. So this is not continuous again. We are sampling the signal at specific instances of time depending on your sample rate, at what is the maximum number of samples per second you can process through this ADC, and that is given, and also depending on the number of bits in your ADC. In this case we are showing an example with 3 bits. So this is the difference that we are getting, right? Suppose this is the actual value, right, and this is the coded value. So this could correspond to some voltage level, right? So 101 means some voltage. On the right hand side you can see that this particular code, let's say 100, means 2.86 volts. So there is a mapping that is done dependent on the full scale. So full scale is 0 volts to 5 volts, and within this how many partitions we have or how many codes we have. So if you are using n bits, we have 2 to the power n, here 2 to the power 3, right? So these values are fixed for a given code. We are having this mapped value, right? And here we are seeing the difference in between this and the actual value gives you the quantization error. And now we are sort of interested in how much can we have some idea about the quantification of this quantization error, right? There are lots of theory that goes behind it, but we will see something. You can see it's like a tip of the iceberg, right? At least you have some working knowledge about how it is related to the number of bits in your ADC and so on, right? So that you can also do some of this analysis on your own. I'll show you one example here. So, so the quantization error introduces noise called quantization noise to the sample signal, right? So this was your actual data, whereas you are representing the data using this. So which means that you are introducing some amount of noise into the system, right? And this noise sort of distorts your data. Uh, the actual data is sort of marred by the amount of noise that is present while sampling. And of course, as you understand that higher the resolution of the ADC, the lower is the quantization error and smaller is the quantization noise. So if the resolution is increased, if you have higher number of bits, as you understand, and the scale is the same, it's, let's say from 0 to 5 volts, instead of having 256 levels. Let's say if you are having 8 bits, and we can increase that to 10 bits, which means now you will have 1024 levels, right? Which basically also means that you will have more number of levels to choose from, which will decrease the amount of noise that you are introducing as a result of this analog to digital conversion. Okay, so higher number of bits, you can intuitively understand that the noise will be reduced. So this is the block diagram to like understand or appreciate the error. So this is the analog input signal, right? This is the input to your system that goes into the sample and hold circuitry and then passed on to the successive approximation register, and the ADC basically gives you the digital code. So that you can convert whatever we call it as a digital signal. So you have this bunch of codes with respect to time, that the code is the n bit output of the ADC, and that if we again pass on to a digital to analog converter, it will basically map those values from the digital signal. Because if you remember last like in the last slide, we had this mapping. Every sort of digital code is associated with some kind of analog signal value, right? So this DAC is the digital to analog converter. This is the doing the reverse thing, digital to analog, and this is going to give you an estimated value of the analog signal. So all the at all the sample instances, at every instant, whatever was your input value, it will do its best guess to estimate the value of the analog signal at that particular time instant, and there will be some information that will be lost, right, because of this quantization. And one way to characterize it is to look at the signal to noise ratio here. So the estimated analog signal divided by the information loss or noise. This is one way to characterize how much information I am losing, or how much what is the performance of my ADC in terms of introduction of noise. Right? If we introduce too much of noise, that is not something which is desired. Right? We want to keep the SNR as high as possible or the noise as low as possible. Right? So we'll try to walk you through a very simple analysis of this system, so that you have some idea, so that you can do some of the analysis on your own for some signals that you might handle, right? So I will give you much more access to some reading materials where you can develop more skills by looking at the derivations and so on, right? So let's say here we are doing something very simple. Let us suppose that the first bit is representing half the maximum amplitude of the signal. So we are having a signal called A, which is the analog signal, and we are converting that into its digital form, right? And if you look at all the bits in the ADC, let's say this is B0, let's say B0, B1, B2. If you look into the kth bit, right, or let's say n minus 1th bit, or let's say k minus 1th bit, right, if you're having k bits. So this is your most significant bit, right, and this is basically representing half the maximum signal amplitude, right? You can also write it in a reverse way. So instead of b0 to bk minus 1, you can write it in the other way. And with every bit, we are basically approximating the next half of the signal, right, whatever remains. So please remember the way we were approximating the signal using that binary search kind of a technique in the successive approximation register. So here the second bit should represent a quarter, and the third bit represent 1/8, and so on. And if we have k bits, then we can actually write what is the maximum amplitude that could be expressed by our ADC that has k bits. What is the maximum value of the amplitude that could be represented here? So anybody wants to try this out? What is the value of Amax here? So what is happening?
So the values keep on decreasing by geometric progression.
Right, but what is the value of A? So suppose this is your value, right? This is A, right? This is A. This is what the maximum value of the analog signal, let's say, right? And we want to reach to this, right? Which basically means suppose you have all ones, right? 1 1 1 1 1 k ones. So k ones is basically the
2 per
value of the
k.
A max. Sorry,
Yeah, Amax equal to 2 per 1 by 2 per k, sir.
1 by 2 power k. So 1 by 2 power k is something. This is the
Okay.
like the gap, right?
Yeah.
2 per k minus 1.
So how are you thinking?
So
So
basically,
what did we do? We did like basically, so if you go here, right, this is either this side or that side. So the first bit will tell you whether to go on the downside or the upside. The next bit will tell you whether to be here or be here. The next bit will tell you whether to be here or here. So this will keep on approximating, right? So what is the value of Amax? So using the first bit, right, that is already taking half of the swing, right? It is already A by 2. So this is already A by 2. Now this is A by 4, right? Are you getting it?
Yes, sir. So the kth position, it is in turn a by 2 power 1, a by 2 power 2, like that it is going on. So final a max equal to a by 2 power k.
No, A max is not A by 2 power k, right? A by 2 power k is a very small value.
Okay, okay, okay. It is in denomination. Okay, sir.
Right? This is nothing but the addition of this, right? This is basically A by 2 plus A by 2
Okay.
square up to A by 2 to the power k.
Okay, okay, okay. 1 minus 1 by 2 power k.
No, that is because we are summing it up. Yeah, because that is the GP.
Yeah, got it, sir. Got it, sir.
Yeah.
I only consider the last part. Okay, sorry, sir.
Yeah. So like this will give you A by 2, and now you are approximating it, right? Just follow the binary search thing that we have done, right? So this is A by 2 plus A by 4. This is basically the amplitude becomes. So if this is A by 4, this is 3A by 4, and yeah, 3A by 4. Now you will add this A by 8, right? So this is that is how these things are added. So how fine grained can you reach the maximum value A? There will be a certain gap, and that gap basically becomes 1 by 2 to the power k. So this A max, I guess, is there any problem in understanding this? Anybody? Okay. So if you are using this ADC and you are having this k bits in the ADC to represent the digital value of the signal, that is the maximum you can represent. Okay. And which is if you sum the GP series, so it becomes A into 1 minus 1 by 2 to the power k, which means that what is the amplitude of the noise, because rest of the thing, right, will be noise, right? That is an error, let's say, because A minus A max, where A max is something that you are able to represent digitally, the remainder will be the noise. So this is nothing but A minus A into 1 by 1 minus 1 by 2 to the power k is equal to A minus 2. This is a small gap, right? So this is a small gap we had. So if it is A, and if this is A max, which was the maximum possible value we could represent, so this is the noise part, okay, which is proportional to, inversely proportional to 2 to the power k. Okay, and from here also you can see if k increases, this gap will keep on decreasing, right, to any practical value you choose for your system, right? You cannot have infinite number of bits, but any reasonable number of bits, you can see the amount of this gap is this quantity is going to decrease. Okay, and also it depends on the value of A, as you are seeing, right? How much is your full scale? It's 0 to 5 volts we tried out, and analog reference we also tried out something like 0 to 1.1 volt in that example, if you remember. Okay, now we have to define this SNR, which is signal to noise ratio. This is given by this this ratio of the power of the signal divided by the power of the noise. So this is the power, which is, as you know, power is basically proportional to the square of the amplitude. So instead of using A signal by A noise, we will use A square signal by A square noise, right? So these are the ratio of the square of the amplitude of the signal's value here. In this case, this is this A, and this is the amount of noise that is introduced, which is nothing but a by 2 to the power k. We have already have an idea or intuition behind what is this a noise and what is this a signal. And now what we will do, we'll do some simple algebra. We'll just substitute these values of a signal and a noise, and let's see what it becomes. Okay, so we are substituting the value of a signal, which is a into 1 minus 1 by 2 to the power k, which is the sum of the geometric terms we added up, and in the denominator we have 2 to the power k, a by 2 to the power k, which is the remainder. A cancels out and we have a whole square term, okay, which is independent of a here. The SNR is 2 to the power k multiplied by 1 minus 1 by 2 to the power k whole square, right? Okay, so now normally this SNR value we have derived as a function, in this case as a function of k, which is the number of bits. Please remember, this is the number of bits in the ADC. And one good way to or a standard way to represent this value of SNR is using the decibel scale, right? So using the decibel scale, if you see, this is nothing but taking this 10 logarithm to the base 10 and then take the value of SNR. So that is how the value of SNR is expressed. And if you look at any sort of this decibel values in wireless communication, in signal strength we measure say minus 70 dBm or minus 30 dBm and so on. And also in case of sound, we normally express this SNR in decibels. Okay, and if we just value, if we just place the value of SNR here, whatever we have derived in the last slide, and simplify the expression, it becomes something like this: 6.02. This is the value of 20 log 10 2 log 2 to the base 10 here into k plus 20 into this term. Okay, and as you might realize, so these are the steps you can very simply follow. I have just expanded the logarithm and put the 2 to the power k and 1 minus 1 by 2 to the power k as two separate terms, and simplified the expression. So if you might observe that this part, right, this part very steadily goes to 0 if k increases, right? If k increases, it basically tends to 0, and the remaining thing is 6.02 multiplied by k. So what we call this effective number of bits, how many in effect, right, how many bits in the ADC will be required. If you have some idea about the kind of SNR that you want to achieve, roughly that value of SNR divided by 6 will give you effectively the number of bits. Okay, so this is a ballpark calculation we might require in some cases, and whether if your SNR is already very good, then you might not require to increase the number of bits there, because if you increase the number of bits, as you have seen, the throughput of your ADC might come down, right? If you have a 10-bit ADC which churns out values at a certain sample rate, and if you want a higher number of bits, right? If you, let's say, if that ADC is capable of giving 12 bits, but you were somehow manipulated, or it had some advantage of reducing the resolution. Now, let's say from 10 bits you want to go to 12 bits, your sample rate will come down, right? It might not be possible for the ADC to give you 12 bits samples at the same sample rate. So you need to be very careful if you are increasing your demand for the number of bits by which you want to represent your digital sample or the analog sample whenever you are converting. So this is something you should keep in mind. How much k should you ask for, right? If you are happy with if your system SNR is fine with 8 bits, so be it, right? You don't want to go with 10 bits or 12 bits, right, or 16 bits. So depending on the kind of application, if you are trying to look for audio recording, let's say, right, you are trying to detect somebody's voice, in those cases you might need a very kind of a good value of SNR. Whereas if you are simply interested about some kind of a threshold, right, whether it is high or low and things like that, there you really don't care about the exact value of the amplitude, right? There the bits is not very, the number of bits is not very important, right? This happens pretty much where you are trying to detect a spike, right? In from the sensor, right? Let's say I'll give you one example, right? From the sensor, this goes to the ADC, and you keep on looking at the value, right? You keep on tracking the value. Once there is a spike, you do something. Again, if there is a spike, you do something, right? So in those cases, you are really not looking for the accuracy of the value per se. What you are looking at is just some kind of an event, right? Whether it's a high value or low value. In those cases, you are not really, you don't care much about the exact SNR, right? So there could be both cases, whereas you could be doing some sophisticated analysis on the exact value, right? You want the value of the analog signal as closely as possible. So in those cases, you want the K to be higher, right? So K should be high here, and here K doesn't matter much. All you require is whether there was a spike or not. Okay, so this is one concept you should keep in mind. And there are more generic analysis that you can do. You can try to look at the RMS performance, right? The RMS value of the error, and you can try out with sinusoidal signals and so on. But in our case, we don't want to go into much more complicated analysis here, because that is not the focus here. All we care about is how the number of bits play a role in determining the accuracy of your samples. That's all we care about. Okay. So now we'll change gears and basically again delve into the ADC driver development, right? So I'll try to recap whatever we had covered in the last class, and we'll take on from there, right? And if you have any questions, please stop and ask me, because these sort of things are kind of core to your any sensing application, right? Because ADC is the heart of your sensing, because all the analog sensors, right, have to go via this ADC, right? So you need to understand what are the facilities or what are the hardware characteristics that are present, at least in the AVR microcontrollers, right? But most of the microcontrollers will give you something very similar. Maybe the high-end microcontrollers will have a higher number of bits in the ADC, but you'll get most of the concepts here, right? Here we are having this 10-bit ADC, but you can, if you are using some other high-end microcontroller, you can still have 12 bits or 14 bits. Okay. So I'll just tell you, right, how the software for this analog to digital converter is written, right? Because on top you have this application code, right? That is, I can call your sensors sensors driver or sensors data collection module, right? That is what you normally develop, right? And sometimes you even get libraries for them, right? This application code is often not written by us, right? So any sensor vendor, right, if you are buying a specific type of sensor, they will give you a library, and all you are doing is using some APIs that are already in the library to do all your algorithmic work, right? Suppose you want to detect something using the sensing data, so your algorithms are taking help of the APIs that are already presented, or that are already present in the library, and that library is handed over to you by the vendor, and they will take care of all the nitty-gritty details underneath. So there will be a hardware abstraction, right? That library might run on different kinds of microcontrollers, right? Even if in the same family there will be multiple versions of them, so there will be some amount of hardware abstraction, right, in terms of registers and so on. And then given the particular implementation, given a particular microcontroller family or particular hardware, you have to work with the ADC driver. So what the ADC driver does is, via the CPU, it is going to instruct the ADC, because this ADC is nothing but a kind of a peripheral, right, as we discussed towards the beginning of the semester. And the sensor which you are going to connect to some kind of a analog pin here is going to be read. So this is your sensor that goes to some analog pin in your microcontroller and then taken up by the CPU, and the ADC driver is the bare metal software that handles how the data has to be read. So in your microcontroller, the CPU and the ADC exists, and all you are doing is enable the ADC and to receive the data, right? And it doesn't happen just in one step. There are lots of things that are associated or that are associated with this, lots of registers and so on. And we already gave an introduction to that in the last class, and I'll try to recap that very quickly for your reference, right? And as you are aware, on the right hand side, I have shown this analog pins. These are the analog pins that are present in your Arduino device, and these pins can take your sensor input, right? If you have an analog sensor, you can just plug it in one of these pins, and that is all. And on the left hand side, I'm going to show you there is a series of registers that are present for controlling this ADC. Okay, so for many IO ports, for example, the digital IO ports, we remember we were using the DDR register, data direction register, and the data register for setting up for setting particular bits in the digital ports. Similarly, for the ADC also, we will have this different kinds of register, and the most kind of basic register that you need to set in the very beginning is the AD, the analog to digital multiplexer register. This basically controls where the data is read from and what is the reference voltage. So this will tackle two things. First one is choosing the input source, so that the address of that input source will be encoded here in these 4 bits. Let's say B0, B1, B2, and B3. So these 4 bits will determine what is your input source, where you are putting your sensor, from which line the analog signal is going to come in, and the other thing is the voltage reference, right? That is also going to be chosen, right? So these are the 2 bits here, B0 and B1. So these are the 2 bits that will determine what is the reference source. So the default reference source could be 5 volts, but there are other options that are possible. For example, you can put 1.1 volt reference source, or you can even put your own reference voltage, right? There could be there is one pin where you can actually put your own reference from outside, and let's say this is 2.78 volts, right? That is also possible. So if you are trying to read the analog reference voltage from outside, you can put that particular voltage and then use it for the ADC conversion. And this, as you understand, goes to your ADC conversion logic, which has the conversion logic as well as the successive approximation register inside it. Okay, and then we spoke about 2 of these registers, which are control and status register A and B. So there are 2 registers like this, and we mostly discussed about status register A. Today also we'll look at status register A only, and for some other time we are going to look at the status register B, maybe the next class. So here we spoke about the prescaler, right? Remember, the ADC was not operating at the same speed, or cannot operate at the same speed as the CPU or the system. It is going to be downsampled, right? The value of the clock that will be fed to the ADC will be much lesser compared to your CPU. It is normally 128 times lesser or 64 times lesser, right? So the clock that it can receive is much lesser, and the value, the division factor, is the prescaler, and we can have 8 possible values of the prescaler that will be encoded here. So this B0, B1, and B2 in blue color, this value, whatever we put here, that maps to some value of prescaler. Putting 111 doesn't mean that prescaler is 7. So 111 means there is a definite mapping. So in this case, I guess 111 means 128. So you have to look at the manual, what these 8 values, how are these 8 values mapped to what values of prescaler. The prescaler could be 2, 16, 64, things like that, right? I think in powers of 2. Okay, and then there were other two things we also discussed was enabling the ADC. So if you enable this, the ADC will be turned on. So before that, you can load the prescaler value in the register, and then once the conversion starts, this flag you have to check, right? Once the conversion is finished, this will be 1, and if the conversion is going on, it will be set to 0. Right? Once you enable the ADC, it will start converting. So there will be some finite amount of time the ADC will take to execute the conversion, and once the conversion is finished, this flag will be set. And you can keep on checking that particular flag, trying to see whether the conversion has finished or not. Okay, and we also spoke about how the data is dumped in these two registers. So there was this analog to digital converter high register, there was this H, and there was this low. There are these two registers, and the data is dumped here, and the pattern or the way the data is organized in these two registers depends on this left right adjust. So there is this ADLAR flag we discussed last time, that depending on whether this value is 0 or 1, you can have the most significant 8 bits either in ADCH or ADCL. Okay, so that is it, right? And I would suggest to look at the manual one more time, just to be familiar with these registers, because these are the ones that will control your ADC conversion. All the features that you happen to have in this particular ADC, all the functionalities that you happen to have will be somehow encoded in these registers. So if you explore all these different bits inside these registers, you will sort of know what are the different tips and like all the different tricks that you can play in order to make your ADC driver much more smarter. Okay, so now I'll show you a sample demo just to give you an example of a working code. So there is an internal temperature sensor on this microcontroller. In Arduino, like even if you don't buy any analog temperature sensor, it's not needed, right? There is something that is already on chip, and if you use this value of ADMux register on the last 4 bits 8, right, this will select the input source as the internal temperature sensor. Okay, so because you are not putting any sensor from outside on this Arduino board, right? So you are not reading those analog pins from A0 to A5, right? So you are reading something that is internal, and the microcontroller is capable of understanding if you are giving this code as 8, it is going to figure out that you are trying to read the internal temperature sensor. Okay, so as you know, we have these two registers that we need to enable. So there is this ADMux register, and then this ADC status, this AD control and status register here. So these are the two things we will deal with, and we already know what are the meanings of all these things, right? Here, the last 4 bits is used to select the input. These 2 bits are used for selecting the reference voltage, and this ADLAR we might not use right now, right? This is for left or right adjustment of the result. And here the bits that we will focus on is the ADC enable thing, the ADC start conversion thing, and the prescaler thing, right? So we have to load a prescaler before starting the conversion. Okay, so let's see how you can set up your sketch to do this analog reading of the temperature sensor, right? So the temperature sensor, mind it is an analog sensor, it is going to be sampled by the ADC, and our microcontroller code is going to fetch the digital samples from the ADC. Okay, so this is the code. Let's look at this one after the other, right? Don't look at all the lines together. So first one we do is ADMux. We have to initialize the ADC to use the internal 1.1 volt reference voltage. So if you want to use the internal temperature sensor, we cannot use the 5 volt reference voltage, right? So that is already mentioned in the manual, right? If you want to use the internal temperature sensor, please use the reference voltage as 1.1 volt, and this 1.1 volt is already this reference is present in the microcontroller if you are choosing this REF0 and the REF1 as 1 1, right? So this is nothing but 1 left shifted by the bit value here. So REF0 will have a bit value of, let's say, 6. So 1 will be shifted 6 times, and it will effectively put the value 1 here in the 7th bit or the 6th index. And same for REFS1, it will put a value of 1. So this 1 will be taken and this will be left shifted, right, on this side. Okay. So is there any problem in understanding how this bit shifting is taking place, or is there any problem with the syntax? What is going on? Okay. So this is 1 followed by this many zeros, and this also is like 1 followed by this many zeros, and then you do inclusive OR, right? And that is your value of the ADMUX. So till now, what you have set 1 1 and rest are zeros. Okay. And then what we do is that the input has to be 8 as mentioned earlier. So this mux value, mux 3 has to be left shifted. So we are having a value of 1 here. So taking mux 3 is basically this 3. So it will be left shifted by 4 places. So this will become 1 1. This will be 0. This will be 0, and the remaining things will be 0. So this 1 1 0 0 1 0 0 0 will be the value of the ADMUX register. Okay. So now we are done with whatever we had to do with the ADC multiplexer register. So now as a part of the setup, we have to look at the status and control register before we start the conversion. So here also we have to do the same thing. We have to load the prescaler. So we have to slow down the ADC clock. So the Arduino, the standard clock is 16 megahertz. So we have to downsample it to 125 kilohertz. So we have to divide it by 128. And this 128 is already, if you look at the manual, we can just use this value of 111. So the prescaler 2-bit, prescaler 1-bit, and the prescaler 0-bit, they all have to be set. So if this is 111, the prescaler of 128 will be used. Okay. And the next thing is we have to enable the ADC and start the conversion. So these are the two steps that are the two things that are remaining. So now after we have already put the value of the prescaler in the status register A, we have to enable the ADC. So that is basically turning on this bit, and then we basically order to start the conversion. So this is SC is the start conversion, and the rest we don't care in this particular example or in this particular scenario. Okay. So after doing this, the ADC SRI register will have the value of 1 1, 3 zeros, and then 3 ones. Okay. So this value all are loaded, and the ADC is enabled now, and the start conversion is enabled now. So now the ADC will record or like read the first analog value and then produce the result, right? So next, after the setup is done, we have to start reading these values. So here we are reading the temperature value. We are trying to design this function called read temperature, and this is a 16-bit value, right? Unsigned 16-bit value. We don't require any signed thing here. So this, why 16? Because the ADC is going to give you 10 bits, right? And so you need at least 2 registers, right? As we have seen, the ADC H and the ADC low, the high and the low registers, we require both of them, which will fit this 10 bits together. Okay. So now let's look at the code. We want to make sure that the most recent ADC read is complete. So we keep on polling the SC bit, right? So we basically look at the ADC SRA, this entire thing, and then AND it with logical AND it with this bit, right? Which is which goes to 0 whenever the conversion is finished. Whenever conversion is finished, it goes to 1. Okay, so we basically keep on checking whether it has gone to 1 or not. Okay, so this is all zeros, but this will be 1, right? And whenever for the conversion is finished, right, the hardware will automatically put a value of 1 here, right? We are just trying to make sure that they match, right? Once once that is done, we know that the conversion has finished, then we can start reading the value of the result from the data register. So we had these two data registers, ADCL and ADCH. We'll come to that. So is this part clear, what we are trying to do?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is like an busy wait, right? Where we are waiting for the ADSC bit to be set. Okay, so this makes sure that the digital analog to digital conversion has finished and the results are written to the data registers. So these details are there in the, if you look at the manual, you will see that the things that happen on completion of the conversion are all stated, right? So the data is also written to the register. So now you can be sure it's safe to read the data. So how it is read without any ADLAR adjustment? It's simply the high bits are left shifted by a byte, because what we will have is this ADCL. It will have all the bits from 0 to 7, and then you will have this ADCH that will have all of them will be zeros, and the last 2 bits will be the 8th bit and the 9th bit, right? So what we do is we read the ADCL thing, right? So this is the first the last 8 bits, and then we left shift the ADCH by 8 bits, so that this entire thing becomes the 16-bit value, right? And we do a logical OR, right? So in in totality it will become 0 0 0. There will be 6 zeros, 1 2 3 4 5 6, followed by the 9th bit, 8th bit, and then 7th bit, 6th bit up to 0. So this becomes your 16-bit value. Any confusion with this? Any problem in understanding what is going on? Okay. And then we have read the result. You can do whatever you want to do with the result, and you can put it to the serial port, or you can just plot it and so on. And then we try to start the next conversion. So for starting the next conversion, this was we just want to initialize the ADSC bit, right? So that will start the next conversion, and we can return the result. Okay. So is there any confusion with these registers and or the way the code is presented or the setup? So I would encourage you to try this on your own, because you won't need any separate sensors as such, because if you happen to have this Arduino kind of board, it will have an internal temperature sensor, and many of the microcontrollers these days, they will have this internal temperature sensor, right? So this is something that you can simply try out, right, on your own, and just have this entire sketch, right, with whatever code I have written, and you can try out small tweaks in the code and see what happens. Okay. So you have to calibrate the result. So this is directly from the manual, because this is just a 16-bit or 16-bit. Within that, this 10 bits, we have this effective value. So how to convert this into degree centigrade? So there was a calibration we spoke about in the very beginning. Right? So in the manual, they give you a formula by which you can calibrate the result that maps to some kind of a degree centigrade. Okay, this result will be some number, so some 10-bit number, right? And that value minus these two things, right? 324.31 and this 1.22. These are the two values that you need to multiply this thing by, divide by this thing with. That gives you the value in terms of degree centigrade. And one more small thing that you also have to keep in mind is, as you see, this is again from the manual, you can check these things out also, is it's important to read the ADCL register first, right, the lower register first, to ensure that the valid data is read, right. So if you are reading the ADCL first, the ADCL and the ADCH registers are locked and cannot be updated by the ADC until the ADCH has been read. So what it means that if you read this ADCH, right, then it will not be possible to, or it is better to avoid to do that in that way. If you read the ADCH, then ADCL cannot be read. So you have to read the ADCL first, right. Even the way this expression is evaluated, right. So if you look at the precedence, right, this is a inclusive OR. So left to right, if you see, right, if you can just simply replace this by, let's say, ADCH left shift 8 and then do an inclusive OR with ADCL, right, and just try to see the result, what happens. Okay, ideally they should not be very different, right, but now we are trying to deal with memory locations and registers, right. Once you are trying to do this ADCH, this is nothing but reading the value from the memory location, and whatever is mentioned in the manuals is that by reading ADCL first, the ADCL and the ADCH registers are locked, right. So the other way also, right, if you read the ADCH first, what happens, you can check out, right. So it is recommended that you read this ADCL first. But the point I'm mentioning this is, right, you have to be very scrupulous about when you write this embedded code, right. All these small things you have to be careful about. Okay, so if you miss this kind of thing, right, and you might unknowingly introduce a bug, right, simply you are reading something first and reading something later, but it is mentioned that if you read something, the other thing could be locked, right. So some of these things have to be very carefully read and implemented, right. So that is to give you that kind of a tedious flavor. So the way you have to look at the manual and understand while implementing the code, the way you debug the code. So in embedded system programming, you need to look at these kind of things. This is a demo, so you can even do it yourself. So I happen to do it. So I'll just show it to you. That on the right hand side, I am plotting the value of the temperature in degrees centigrade. I based on the calibration, and I am taking this candle in front. So it's slowly raising the internal temperature, right. I did not want to burn my Arduino board, so that's why I did not take it very near, but it's again pretty near, so that you can appreciate the change in temperature, right. So it increases, and by the way, I'm sending this through to a laptop computer through the serial port. Right now it increased too much, it's almost 33 degree, and then again coming down. So if you write this code, you can very easily regenerate or recreate this sort of an experiment. Okay, so at least this helps you in understanding the functionality of the various registers in the ADC, right. So if you do something wrong with any of the bits there, right, this is not going to work, right. So a good way to check, because the temperature is something that you can very easily correlate with, right. If something goes wrong, you can very easily understand that there is a problem. So I would encourage all of you, right, to try this experiment, and then not only just have a working code, right, but tweak these registers in different ways and try to see what happens, right. Can you make the prescaler 64? Can you make the prescaler 16? Right, try out different and try to make the reference voltage instead of 1.1, make it 5 volts. What happens, right? Try to play and sort of break the system, right, in terms of whether you are getting something that can be acceptable or not, right. Your idea is to get as much of data as possible from the sensor, right. So I would recommend you to get a working version of this code and start playing with this, right. Once I put these slides also, you can use the same code and make some minor tweaks and check. Okay, So I would also suggest to get this ADLAR is equal to 1. This is for your own understanding of register reads, how you should read the register. And if you put this left adjust result is equal to 1, you can also, the other thing you can do is you can also read ADCH, right, just to get hold of the most significant 8 bits. And that will definitely have a loss in the precision of the temperature value. So that also you can understand, right, the way while you are having the heat source in front of the microcontroller, how the value changes, right, if you're just using 8 bits versus you are using 10 bits, right. So those kind of practical things you can experiment with and see what happens. Okay. So now one note on latency. So our ADC, so how much time we are trying to discuss, how much time it will take for this conversion, right? What is the speed of this conversion? So for our 10-bit ADC, it was taking 13 ADC clock cycles to perform one conversion. And you can ignore the first conversion where the circuitry is initialized and some other bookkeeping has to be done in the very beginning, right? So it takes more than that. I think it takes about 25 ADC clock cycles. Okay. So anybody, what happens in this 13 ADC clock cycles? Why it is 13? Anybody can explain? I explained it in the last class. Why 13? So what are the components in this 13? You don't have to explain me why exactly it is 13, but what are the different things? What is the partitioning in this 13? Anybody? Okay. So any?
Sir, because of the searching,
Yes, searching takes a significant amount of time. And anything else? So there was this thing called sample and hold, right? It will try to first sample the data and hold that analog value in the capacitor or that system, right? That sample or the hold module for some time, during which after that the conversion will start, and that conversion takes for the 10 bits, right? It will do a binary search kind of thing, right? So that will, for 1024 levels, it will take at most log of 1024, that is 10. So 10 clock cycles will be spent on that SAR, successive approximation register, and first 3 clock cycles will be spent on the sample and hold. So the sample and hold, it will take about 3 cycles, and then the actual conversion in the SAR will take 10 cycles. Okay. So that's how 10 plus 3, 13. So if you are using a 12-bit ADC, it will take 3 plus 12, 15. Okay, using this this kind of a ADC technology. And on the bottom side, I show you. So mind that this is, we are talking about ADC clock cycles, 13 ADC clock cycles, not CPU clock cycles. So ADC clock cycles are very slow. There is this prescaler that goes in. So I have shown these 2 pictures where I am requesting the conversion. So I am enabling from my code, I am doing all this, read the value of the temperature sensor. I'm requesting this value to be read, and it will not start the conversion immediately, right? So the conversion will actually start on the leading edge of the ADC clock. So in the bottom side, we are showing this ADC clock. The conversion will only start at this time. Okay, even if you request from your software or from your firmware, you can request it much earlier. So this time has to be wasted before the actual conversion starts. So just keep this in mind. And so one small question I want to ask you, right? So assuming, let's say there is a 16 megahertz CPU clock and a prescaler of 128, should we have an idea about how many samples per second should you obtain from the ADC? Okay, can you quickly think? Simple thing, right? 16 megahertz clock of the CPU. You do a prescaler. Anybody wants to proceed with me? It's just a simple thing about what I just taught.
125, sir.
Right. So if you have a prescaler of 128, you get a 125
Yes, sir.
kilohertz as a ADC clock, right?
Yes,
Now
sir.
I'm asking how many samples per second would you obtain from the ADC? So I'll ask some simple questions like this in your class test or that
Yes.
quiz thing, right? So that's why I try to get you acquainted with this kind of questions.
Yes, sir.
So now this is your clock speed. Now how do you convert that into samples?
So for samples,
So then again we will divide by 13.
no, 13 is not a fixed number.
Yeah, 13 is fixed. I'm talking about this 10-bit ADC only here. I should have mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, in this case for
In this case, this is 13, right? So one stream of this 13 clocks is
So
going to give you one converted.
Nine samples I may get, sir. 9 good samples.
No. So 13 pulses, right, or 13 clock cycles is going to give you one sample. So after that, you're going to get one sample.
Yes, sir.
So this will be 125 kilohertz, right? So this is the number of cycles per second,
Yes, sir.
right? And then D is divided by 13.
Yes, sir. So, yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, whatever be it, right? So, and then you should get an idea about like what is the time taken for one sample to be read, right? So these are sort of important things to have a ballpark idea, right? Somebody asks you, right, how much time does getting one sample take? Is it in milliseconds? It is in nanosecond? It is in microsecond? What is your answer? So these kind of ballpark numbers you should be aware of, right? I'm not asking you to know the exact numbers, but if you do these sort of calculations at least once in your hand, you should be able to give a decent answer, right? A kind of guess, right? Whether it is 1 microsecond or it is 100 microsecond or it is 1 millisecond. These sort of questions you should be able to answer. Okay, and then that is the theoretical limit, right? And then you will have this overhead for registers and so on, right? Normally, if you are using 128 prescaler, it will take approximately 105 to 106 microsecond, or I guess with some overheads it will become something like this, and then there will be an overhead. So this is the theoretical value, right? Assuming that is absolute efficiency in reading the data and so on. Plus there will be some overhead in reading the registers that will take some time before you enable the next conversion, and then you have to store the result in some array and so on. So that will take time. Okay, so what if the prescaler is set to 64? Okay, so you can't simply say that, oh, instead of 128, let's say I'm using 64, so this will become 250 kilohertz, right? Now you have to go back to the manual and see that in this particular thing, it won't support more than 200 kilohertz. Okay, so this is the way you want to design systems, right? You have to look at the capability of the system and then how much freedom you have from your code, right? Of course, you can write this code. There will be no compilation error, nothing. I would recommend you to try this out and see what happens, right? But you will start getting some erroneous data, and you might start complaining that your sensor is faulty, that sensor is not working. But the sensor doesn't have any problem. Your code doesn't have any bug apparently. But once you go through the ADC specification, you will see that this is not going to allow you something more than that if you want 10-bit resolution. There is a catch, right? So you can, of course, as I was arguing earlier, that of course you can trade off how much speed you want to have versus what is the resolution that you are trying to achieve. You can go for a higher clock for the ADC, but you have to trade off in terms of the resolution. Maybe you can get something like 8 bits now. Okay, so these are some of the details you should actually be very, very cautious about when you try to write this sort of code. Okay, that is the purpose of putting this question.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so yeah, I'll go into the other details. So before going into designing the driver, right, what are the things we should take care? We actually had this demo run of reading the values, right? We did not care much about what was happening, and as long as it worked, we are fine, right? But if you want to design something more professionally, very high speed, you don't want to waste your system's resources, right? What are the things that you should take care of? What are the goals that you should have in mind if you are trying to design this kind of sort of a driver, right? And I'm going to give you this example code, right? We had this read temperature data from the ADC. We had this code, right? So what do you think is a problem with this code? Is there anything that is inefficient? Is there anything that should not be done? Anything that you could think of? So your work of ADC driver is to get as much data from the sensor, right? And there should be one more thing that you should keep in mind. I want to have this answer from some of you guys, right? Because we are talking about these IoT systems, embedded systems, which does not have a lot of resources, right? And you want to maximize the amount of data you are reading from sensors, and then what? Anything else that occurs in your mind that you should take care of? Anybody?
That result declaration we can avoid, sir. The very good.
The what?
The result.
So directly using the receive location.
Yeah.
No, there is okay. So that is fine, right? That is some small one instruction, right? You want to whether you are directly using the result or not. But there are something much more serious here.
Okay.
And anybody who has taken things like operating systems and so on, right? They should be able to jump in directly. See, what is this code is doing? This is doing like a blunder, right?
Oh yeah, yes, sir. Until it gets a 0, it keeps going. Yeah.
So this is what is this known as?
Undefined.
You have heard about busy waiting or polling, right? Have you heard of polling? So you keep on polling on a particular value before it gets freed up, right? So this is completely keeping the CPU busy, right? So if you want to read ADC value, it keeps on checking that particular bit, right? And you are blocked. You are not able to do anything. Suppose you might have to do some more processing of your old data, which you are not doing. You are simply waiting on an infinite loop, right? And you will see this practice to be prevalent on many driver codes. If you look at even some commercially available driver codes, you will see this kind of a driver that is written, right? And if you want to have, yeah, hello.
Sir, in microcontroller, you said we don't have multi-threading. So
No.
So even if we are in busy waiting, that is not an issue.
No. We don't have separate threads here, but as long as this code is concerned, right? You can see that we are simply keeping the CPU busy doing nothing. That you agree or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what we can do, there are other ways to handle this thing, right? So that is what I'm going to teach. So the first way that we have already showed in the temperature sensor example was polling. So this was a fold strategy. You keep on checking a particular variable whether the conversion has finished or not. Okay. Then there are other strategies. There could be something called a scheduled strategy, where you can every 100 milliseconds you can come back, do your work, and then check whether your data is ready or not. Or you can come back every 2 milliseconds, let's say, right? So this is something that I'm going to teach in the next class, right? How you can schedule reading data from a sensor. Okay, so that does not keep your processor busy. You just instruct the ADC to start collecting samples, and whenever it will be done, it will keep the data in the data register. In the meantime, go and do other work. Okay. Similarly, the most common way it is done is called interrupt driven. So there are facilities inside this ADC registers or in this microcontroller to raise a flag whenever your work is done, whenever the conversion has finished, when the conversion has completed. You don't have to stand and manually check that whether the conversion has completed or not. There is already inbuilt hardware facilities for doing that, right? Still, it happens many libraries that you will see will not make use of these things, right? And if you happen to use some of those things and you write your own application code depending on those libraries, you will see much poorer performance, right? So you once you are dealing with some analog sensor, and you have to look at how the driver is actually implemented, whether they are having a busy wait kind of a polling, or they are making use of interrupts, or they are trying to do some scheduling on their part. So once you don't understand these concepts, you will not be able to make the system more efficient, right? And when we talk about any sensing, in most applications we want to have the speed of sensing to be decent as possible, right? You want to maximize the efficiency of your hardware, right? Just because your CPU is 16 megahertz, you are getting a lot of samples, doesn't mean that that will suffice all sorts of application requirement with a polling strategy, right? Maybe you want to maximize how much sensors you are getting. At that critical point, you will face a problem because of the inefficiency in your driver. Okay, hope that this makes sense. And I'll start with this polling strategy. You have already discussed this, right? So there is nothing more that I will discuss in this particular thing, and I'll straight away go to the other topics. So the interrupt based design as well as the scheduling in the next class, right? So today I'll just keep it till here.